2019 is almost done, and what a great year that was. Personally, I spent most of it on reviewing terrible weapons in Warframe, and while telling you what to think is a noble job, I am too important to be limited to just one game. So here's a list dedicated to my favorite and most hated games of this year so far. But before we get to the misery, let's talk about something that doesn't have the stench of loot boxes all over it. Battlefield Gothic Armada 2 is probably the best strategy game of 2019. Fuck off. Does auto chess enable you to crash 3-mile-long spaceships into one another for hilarity's sake, before being shot in the back of the head by a commissar? Then I don't care. Despite the influence of a notorious colony of slugs inside a trench coat pretending to be human, despite being on the most hated storefront in the history of trade, and despite being hampered by writing but making Adam Sandler spin in his grave, Borderlands 3 is still a great video game, probably because it's a microtransaction-free looter shooter, where it's both fun to loot and shoot. Fucking imagine. Control is kinda like Alan Wake, but instead of running around incest bumblefuck and scaring off locals with a fleshlight, you get a magic gun and the ability to fly. Intriguing story, exciting action, great music, beautiful visuals. Aside from shitty non-ending and annoying bosses, a great fucking game. Now, let's talk about some shit. Days Gone is a love letter to Ride to Hell Retribution. Since we don't have 2 hours to explain every single thing in this game that sucks the filthiest assholes, I will be brief. Terrible combat, ever-present glitches, awful performance, poor driving controls, ugly visuals, repetitive gameplay, hilariously poor story, and the most unlikable protagonist since your life. Anthem. A sad tale of what happens when you spend 6 years doing this, and then have to slap together a game in 6 months while literally working your staff to tears. This game is not only terrible, it's also probably a crime. Ghost Recon Breakpoint is a spiritual successor to Rogue Warrior, but instead of Mickey Rourke saying fuck every 5 seconds out of hate for communists,
go fuck bullshit, you motherfuckers,
it features the player saying fuck every 5 seconds out of hate for the fucking game. This awful piece of software was clearly released like an unwanted dog in the woods, about a year before being half finished. It has no story, no characters, and no gameplay, aside from endless, identical outpost liberations. But what it does have is an egregious amount of microtransactions, and a staggering amount of bugs. Fuck this game. Being a gamer in 2019 was like being a hobbit, under the feet of 2 wrestling giants made out of feces. Whoever wins, we lose. Ubisoft gained an advantage in this repugnant race to the landfill, but this year isn't over yet, and Electronic Arts still has a chance of taking back the title of the worst publisher of the year. Godspeed, you fucking rats.
We will watch your career with great interest.